The chamber of the Galactic Council was the largest room Daniel Carter had ever seen. It stretched for almost a kilometer, with walls made of crystal that hummed and glowed with soft light. 1,000 different alien species sat in the seats above him, looking down at where he stood. They had given him the lowest podium in the room, a small platform at the very bottom where everyone could look down on him like he was something small and unimportant. Daniel was the ambassador from Earth. He had come here today to ask for something his people had wanted for a very long time. He wanted the council to accept humanity as full members, to treat them as equals instead of servants. But as he looked up at the alien faces staring down at him, he knew this was not going to be easy. High Chancellor Verthax sat on an elevated throne at the highest point of the chamber. He was a serpentine creature, his long body coiled around his seat, with scales that shimmered in the light. He had multiple eyes that all focused on Daniel with cold interest. "The petition from Earth is denied," Verthax announced. His voice echoed through the chamber. "Humanity's request for full membership has been reviewed. We find it inadequate." Strange sound rippled through the assembly. It took Daniel a moment to realize they were laughing. Clicking sounds, hissing sounds, gurgling sounds. Every species had its own way of showing amusement, and they were all doing it now. They were laughing at him. They were laughing at humanity. Daniel kept his face calm. He had been a diplomat for 30 years. He knew how to hide his feelings. But inside, his heart was beating fast and his hands were tight behind his back. "May I ask why, High Chancellor?" he said, keeping his voice steady. "Your species has been traveling in space for only 300 years. You have no special technology to offer us. Your military is weak. You rank at the bottom of all recognized civilizations." Verthax leaned forward, and his many eyes narrowed. "To speak plainly, Ambassador, your people are primitive. You are aggressive and violent. You are not worthy of sitting among the enlightened species of this council." More laughter. The Kalori delegation, beings with faces that glowed with bioluminescent light, made no effort to hide their mockery. Their faces pulsed with bright colors as they laughed. Another alien rose from his seat. This was Crystal, the ambassador from the Malaxian Empire. He was tall and insectoid, with hard shell covering his body and multiple arms that clicked together as he spoke. "Perhaps we should be more honest with the human," Crystal said. "Earth sits in a very valuable position. 3 major trade routes pass through your space. The treaties your ancestors signed give us access to those routes for almost nothing. If we made you full members, we would have to pay you fair prices. That would cost us money." Daniel felt something cold settle in his stomach. "So you keep us as second-class citizens because it makes you rich?" "We keep you in your place because you have not earned anything better," Verthax replied. "The treaties stand. Earth will continue to provide passage rights through your space. You will continue to give us access to your minerals. You will continue to send workers to our factories. This is how it has always been. This is how it will stay." "This discussion is over," the High Chancellor added. "You may leave." Daniel stood very still. He could feel every eye in the chamber watching him. Every camera drone floating in the air was pointed at his face. He knew that back on Earth, billions of people were watching this moment. They were watching their ambassador be humiliated in front of the entire galaxy. "I understand, High Chancellor," Daniel said finally. "I will tell my government what you have decided," turned and walked toward the exit. His steps were slow and measured. He kept his back straight and his head high. But the laughter followed him all the way to the doors, echoing off the crystal walls until the sound surrounded him completely. 12 hours later, Daniel sat in his small office at the human embassy. The room was cramped and plain compared to the grand chambers the other species used. That was intentional, he knew. Everything about how the council treated humanity was designed to remind them of their place. Screen on his desk showed the face of President Laura Mitchell. She was a woman in her 60s, with gray hair and sharp eyes. Behind her, Daniel could see the shadows of other people. Her cabinet, the military leaders, the intelligence directors, everyone important was in that room. "They laughed at you," the president said quietly. "Yes, they called us primitive. Yes, among other things." The president was silent for a long moment. Daniel could see her thinking, could see the cold anger in her eyes. Daniel, I need you to deliver a message to the council tomorrow morning. Of course, Madam President. What message? She told him. Daniel felt the blood leave his face. His hands started to shake. Laura, are you sure about this? The decision has been made. Every country on Earth agrees. This has been coming for a long time, Daniel. They just gave us the excuse we needed. Daniel did not sleep that night. He lay in his bed, staring at the ceiling, thinking about what was going to happen. Thinking about what it would mean for humanity. Thinking about whether they were ready. The next morning, he walked back into the council chamber. The aliens barely looked at him. They continued their conversations as if he was not there, as if he was too unimportant to notice. Daniel did not go to the lesser podium this time. Instead, he walked directly to the center of the chamber floor. This was a place where only high chancellors and heads of state were allowed to stand. No human had ever stood there before. Rithax's many eyes widened. Ambassador, you forget your place. No, High Chancellor. Daniel's voice was strong and clear. I finally remember it. He activated a device on his wrist. A document appeared in the air above him, projected in light so that every delegate in the chamber could read it. As of this morning, the United Earth Government has ended all treaties with the Galactic Council. The Treaty of Passage is terminated. The Mineral Rights Accord is terminated. The Labor Exchange Agreement is terminated. All 73 contracts signed between Earth and the Council over the past 200 years are now void. The laughter stopped. The chamber went completely silent. Furthermore, Daniel continued, Earth is closing its space to all Council traffic immediately. Any ship that enters our system without our permission will be treated as an enemy and destroyed. Crystal jumped to his feet. You cannot do this. Those trade routes are essential to Council commerce. Without them, our economy will suffer greatly. Then perhaps you should have treated us as valuable partners instead of primitive servants. Rithax's voice was low and dangerous. You are making a terrible mistake, Ambassador. Earth does not have the power to enforce this declaration. We will send our fleets, and we will remind you of your place. Daniel smiled. It was not a friendly smile. High Chancellor, with respect, you have no idea what Earth can do. You stopped watching us 2 centuries ago because you thought we had nothing worth watching. That was your mistake. He turned and walked toward the exit. Consider this our resignation from your enlightened community. We will see you among the stars, High Chancellor. Or rather, you will see us coming. Doors closed behind him, and the Galactic Council erupted into chaos. 3 days after Daniel Carter made his announcement, the first Council fleet arrived at the edge of the Sol system. Admiral Crixvan of the Malaxian Navy commanded 12 warships. They were massive vessels, bristling with weapons and covered in thick armor. A fleet like this was considered strong enough to conquer 100 primitive worlds. Crixvan sat in his command chair, looking at the distant yellow sun that warmed the human homeworld. He felt confident. The humans had made bold claims, but claims meant nothing against real firepower. He would teach them a lesson they would never forget. Send the standard warning message, he ordered his communications officer. Tell the humans that fighting back is pointless. Tell them their defiance will result in harsh punishment. The message was sent. Crixvan waited for a response, expecting fear, perhaps begging for mercy. The response came, but not from Earth. It came from somewhere much closer. Galaxian Fleet. This is Commander Samuel Drake of the Earth Defense Force vessel Constellation. You are in restricted space without permission. You have 60 seconds to turn around and leave. If you do not, we will open fire. Crixvan made a clicking sound that served as laughter among his people. 1 ship threatens 12? This is amusing. Find this constellation on our sensors. Sensor officer worked at his controls, then suddenly froze. His many legs stopped moving entirely. Admiral, I have found the vessel. But there is something wrong. What is wrong? The ship is directly behind us. It was not there 3 seconds ago. It simply appeared. Crixvan spun around in his chair, staring at the main viewing screen. A human ship hung in space less than a kilometer away. It was sleek and angular, with smooth lines and a design that existed in no council database. The ship was perhaps half the size of his flagship, almost delicate in appearance. "That is impossible," Crixvan said. "No ship can travel faster than light while inside a star system. The gravity makes it impossible. Everyone knows this." 30 seconds. Commander Drake's voice continued calmly over the communication channel. "I suggest you leave now. My crew has been waiting for a chance to test our new weapons on real targets. They are very eager." "You are lying. One ship cannot threaten a fleet of 12. You are trying to frighten us with tricks," Constellation fired. Crixvan watched in horror as a beam of energy unlike anything in Council records sliced through his lead escort vessel. The ship did not explode slowly. It did not lose power piece by piece. It simply stopped existing. One moment it was there. The next moment it was an expanding cloud of plasma and gas spreading through space where a ship had been. 15 seconds, Drake said. The Malaxian fleet turned and ran. They activated their faster-than-light drives at a distance that should have torn their ships apart from the stress. They preferred the risk of destroying themselves to facing whatever had just erased their comrade from existence. "Commander."
"Ow."
Drake watched them flee. Then he opened a communication channel to Earth. "Admiral Cooper, the patrol fleet has been discouraged. No need to chase them. I am returning to my station." On Earth, Admiral Patricia Cooper nodded with satisfaction. She stood in the command center of Space Force Operations, a massive underground facility that officially did not exist. The walls around her were covered with displays showing the positions of 200 human vessels scattered throughout the solar system, 200 ships that the Council did not know about. Good work, Sam. The Council should be receiving the message right about now. And they were. Within hours, the Galactic Council held an emergency meeting. They watched the footage that Crixvan had sent during his retreat. They watched it again and again, seeing a human ship appear from nowhere and destroy a Council warship with a single shot. Berthax demanded. His serpentine body was coiled tight with tension. "Our spies have watched Earth for decades. They reported no such technology. They told us the humans were primitive." The Council's intelligence director, a furry creature named Severix, stepped forward reluctantly. "High Chancellor, it appears our monitoring was not complete. We watched their visible military bases. We watched their official research programs. We watched their public announcements. And it seems they were doing much more work in places we did not watch. Underground facilities hidden deep beneath the surface. Research stations that could be moved from place to place. Installations hidden in the asteroid belt and the outer parts of their star system. For how long?" Severix's fur rippled with embarrassment. "Based on how advanced their technology appears to be, at least 150 years. The Council chamber fell completely silent. "They let us think they were primitive," Crystal said slowly. "They signed treaties that seemed to favor us. And all that time, secretly, they were building something else entirely. They were building an empire," Berthax finished. "Right under our noses, and we never noticed." On Earth, President Mitchell addressed the world. Every screen on the planet showed her face. Every speaker carried her voice. "For 2 centuries, we played a part. We let the Galactic Council believe we were weak and backward. We let them think we needed their kindness to survive. We signed unfair treaties because we needed time. Time to learn from them. Time to build our own technology. Time to become something they could not ignore." She paused, and billions of people held their breath. "That time is over. The technology we have built in secret is now better than anything the Council has. Our fleet is small, but it is growing fast. Our weapons have no equal anywhere in the galaxy, and our will to fight is absolute. We did not want this conflict. We asked only for respect. We asked only for fair treatment. We asked only for the dignity that any civilization deserves. They laughed at us. They called us primitive. They made their contempt very clear.
"Ow."
So let me make our position equally clear. Earth will not be ruled by anyone. Earth will not be frightened by anyone. Earth will not bow down before anyone who cannot force us to our knees. She smiled, and across the world, humanity smiled with her. And right now, there is no one in this galaxy who can force us to our knees. The next few weeks were busy ones for the human military. Admiral Cooper worked around the clock, coordinating the defense of the solar system and preparing for the attack she knew was coming. The Council would not accept this humiliation. They would send more ships. Many more ships. Commander Samuel Drake was promoted to Commodore and given command of a small squadron. He spent his time training his crews, running simulations, making sure everyone was ready for what was coming. They will come with everything they have, Admiral Cooper told her officers during one meeting. They have to. If they let us get away with this, every other species in the galaxy will start asking questions. They will wonder if maybe they could stand up to the Council too. How many ships do you think they will send? One officer asked. As many as they can gather. Hundreds, probably. Maybe close to 1,000. Can we beat that many? Cooper smiled. Our technology is generations ahead of theirs. Our ships can appear and disappear at will. Our weapons can destroy their vessels with a single shot. One of our ships is worth 20 of theirs. We only have 200 ships. Then we will have to make every shot count. Cooper looked around the room at her officers. The Council has spent thousands of years bullying weaker species. They have forgotten what it feels like to face an enemy who can fight back. We are going to remind them. She pulled up a tactical display showing the solar system. They think numbers will save them. They think if they bring enough ships, we will be overwhelmed. But numbers only matter if you can bring them to bear. And in the kind of battle we are going to fight, they will never get that chance. When they come, we will show them what humanity has become. We will show them what happens when you underestimate us. We will show them that we are not the primitive species they mocked in their council chamber. We are something new. Something they have never faced before. And they are going to learn to fear us. The Galactic Council did not accept being embarrassed. Within 2 weeks of what happened at the Sol system, they had gathered the largest military force in their entire history. 800 warships from every major species came together under the command of Fleet Admiral Vareth. The most famous and decorated officer in all of Council space, Vareth was an old warrior. He had fought in dozens of campaigns and had never lost a battle. When the Council asked him to destroy the humans, he accepted without hesitation. He believed in the Council. He believed in its power. And he believed that no primitive species could stand against the combined might of galactic civilization. The humans have perhaps 200 ships, Vareth told his captains before they departed. They have advanced technology, yes. We have seen that. But technology means nothing against overwhelming numbers. We will enter their system with 800 vessels. We will crush their fleet. We will occupy their world. Earth will serve as an example to any other species that thinks about defying us. The Armada jumped to faster-than-light travel and emerged at the edge of the Sol system in perfect formation. 800 warships of every shape and size, representing the combined military power of the Galactic Council, spread across space like an angry swarm. Malaxian dreadnoughts, massive and heavily armored. Kellar cruisers with their glowing weapon systems. Vorlani gunships. Small, but deadly. Ships from species that humans had never even heard of. Admiral Patricia Cooper studied the sensor data aboard her flagship, the carrier Independence. She stood on the bridge surrounded by her officers, watching the enemy fleet appear on their screens. They brought everyone. Her tactical officer, Lieutenant Kevin Brooks, observed. His voice was calm, but there was tension underneath. I count ships from at least 30 different species. Some of them I do not even recognize. They want to make a statement, Cooper replied. They want to show the galaxy that no one defies the Council and survives. She opened a communication channel to every ship in the human fleet. All ships. This is Admiral Cooper. The enemy has arrived. They have brought everything they have. They think numbers will win this battle. They are wrong. Execute Plan Omega. Show them what humanity has learned. 160 Earth vessels activated their dimensional slip drives. In an instant, they vanished from normal space. Less than a second later, they reappeared scattered throughout the Council formation. Positioned between enemy equisips in patterns that made shooting back almost impossible. The battle lasted 17 minutes. Human ships blinked in and out of existence, firing their conversion beams, then disappearing before any return fire could reach them. Council vessels found themselves shooting at empty space where human ships had been. Worse, they found themselves shooting at each other as they tried to track targets that would not stay still, shields that had protected Council ships for decades, collapsed instantly under weapons that seemed to ignore them entirely. Armor that could withstand asteroid impacts melted away like ice in a furnace. Ships that had taken years to build were destroyed in seconds. Fleet Admiral Vareth watched from his bridge as chaos consumed his fleet. His flagship shook as it took fire from 3 different directions at once. "They are everywhere," he said, his voice filled with something he had never felt before in battle. Fear. They appear, they fire, they vanish. How do we fight enemies we cannot see coming? His tactical officer had no answer. Neither did anyone else. Vareth had spent his entire life learning how to fight. He knew every strategy, every tactic, every trick that existed in galactic warfare. But nothing he knew applied here. This was not a battle. This was an execution. All ships, retreat, he finally ordered. Fall back. Disengage and retreat. But retreat was not easy when the enemy could appear anywhere at any moment. Ships trying to escape found human vessels materializing directly in their path. Ships trying to form defensive groups found themselves picked apart before they could organize. When the firing finally stopped, 112 Council warships had been destroyed. 200 more were disabled, floating helplessly in space with no power and no weapons. The ships that remained were in full retreat, their captains ignoring Vareth's attempts to rally. Them humanity had lost 3 vessels, 3 and all crew members. From those ships had been rescued before their vessels were destroyed. Admiral Cooper opened a broadcast channel that reached every surviving Council ship. The message also transmitted directly to the Council chamber itself, where Verthax and the other leaders were watching in horror. Fleet Admiral Verthay, "This is Admiral Patricia Cooper of the Earth Defense Force. Your attack has failed. Your fleet is broken. You may take your surviving ships and leave, or you may stay and continue to fight. If you stay, you will die. The choice is yours." She paused for a moment, then continued. "I also have a message for the Galactic Council. What happened today was defense. We destroyed only the ships that attacked us. We let the rest of you go. Consider this a demonstration of our restraint. If the Council chooses to send another fleet, we will not be so gentle. We will chase your ships back to their home systems. We will destroy your space stations and your shipyards. We will burn your ability to make war until you can no longer threaten us. You called us primitive. You said we were not worthy to sit among you. Perhaps you were right about what we were when we first came to the stars, but we are not that civilization anymore. We are something new, something you created through your arrogance and your contempt. Choose your next actions carefully, because if you come for us again, we will come for you, and you will not enjoy what happens next." The broadcast ended. Across the galaxy, species that had dismissed humanity as unimportant began to reconsider. They watched the footage of the battle, seeing Council ships destroyed by the dozens while human vessels danced between them untouched. They saw the fear on Vareth's face as his fleet fell apart around him, and they began to think, if the humans could do this to the Council, perhaps the Council was not as powerful as everyone believed. Perhaps there were other ways to live besides under Council rule, back on Earth. Celebrations erupted in every city on every continent. People danced in the streets. They cheered and cried and hugged strangers. For 300 years, humanity had lived under the shadow of the Galactic Council. They had been told they were inferior. They had been treated as servants. They had been forced to accept unfair treaties because they had no choice. Now they had a choice. Now they had power. Now they could stand on their own feet and face the galaxy as equals. President Mitchell watched the celebrations from her office, a glass of whiskey in her hand. Daniel Carter stood beside her, looking out the window at the crowds below. "We have won the battle," the president said quietly. But the war is just beginning. Council will not stop, Daniel agreed. They cannot. If they back down now, every species they control will start asking uncomfortable questions. They will wonder if maybe they should not be controlled anymore. Then we need to give those species something better than questions. Mitchell turned to face him. We need to give them an alternative. You mean building alliances? You mean building a new order? Not through conquest, but through invitation. Every species the Council has exploited. Every world they have dismissed as primitive. Every civilization that has been waiting for someone to stand up to them. That is a dangerous game, Laura. Is the only game worth playing. Mitchell smiled. The Council ruled through fear and contempt for thousands of years. We are going to rule through respect and opportunity. Besides, we have something they never had. We remember what it felt like to be weak. We remember the humiliation of that podium they put you on, making you look up at them while they laughed. We will never treat another species that way. That is what will make us different. That is what will make us succeed where they failed. 6 months after the great battle at Sol, the galaxy had changed in ways no one could have predicted. The Galactic Council still existed, but its power was crumbling. Every day brought new reports of unrest, of species questioning whether the Council could still protect them, of trade routes disrupted and alliances falling apart, the first species to approach humanity. With friendship was the Trinari. They were a reptilian people with scaled skin and sharp teeth, and they had suffered under Council exploitation for more than 1,000 years. Their ambassador, a scarred old veteran named Keshver, arrived at Earth with a simple message. We watched what you did to the Council fleet, he said when he met with President Mitchell. We watched 800 ships become scrap metal in less than 20 minutes. We would very much like to be your friends rather than your enemies. President Mitchell received him with full honors. She did not make him stand at a lower podium. She did not look down at him from an elevated seat. She sat across from him at a simple table, treating him as an equal. We are happy to welcome the Trinari as friends, she said. But I want to be clear about what that means. We are not looking for servants or subjects. We are looking for partners. Keshver tilted his head, a gesture of confusion among his people. What exactly do you mean by partners? I mean that we help each other. If you are attacked, we will defend you. If we are attacked, we ask that you support us. Beyond that, we want trade between our peoples. We want to share knowledge and culture. We want to work together to build things that help everyone. What do you want in return? What is the price of your friendship? Mitchell smiled. The price is friendship itself. We want allies we can trust. We want to prove that there is a better way to organize galactic civilization. Not exploitation and contempt, but cooperation and respect. You're very honest. We have learned that honesty works better than lies in the long run. The Council built their power on deception and manipulation. Look where it got them. Within a week, the Trinari Alliance was signed. Within a month, 3 more species had joined the new coalition. The Vorix were a nomadic people who lived on great ships that traveled between the stars. They controlled important trade routes and were tired of paying tribute to the Council for the right to use them. The Milani were former Council members who had been punished for suggesting reforms. And the Crystalline Collective was an ancient species made of living silicon. Beings that Council scientists had wrongly classified as non-intelligent and had tried to mine for resources. Commodore Samuel Drake was given the job of coordinating joint military operations between the coalition members. He found it challenging, but exciting. The Trinari fight like wild animals, he reported to Admiral Cooper during one of their meetings. No subtlety at all. They just charge straight at the enemy and tear them apart with their bear claws if they have to. Is that a problem? It can be if they are not properly supported. But put them together with our dimensional slip technology, and they become incredibly effective. They appear in the middle of an enemy formation and start destroying everything around them before anyone can react. But what about the Vorix? Brilliant at hit-and-run attacks. They have been raiding Council supply lines for generations. They know every trick, every hiding spot, every weakness. Combined with our weapons, they are devastating. And command structures? I worried there would be conflicts over who gives orders. Drake smiled. We solved that problem early. Human officers do not give orders to Allied crews. Allied officers do not give orders to human crews. We coordinate through joint planning. We agree on objectives together. Then each fleet executes in its own way. Does it work? It works because everyone wants it to work. The Council treated their subject species like slaves. We treat our allies like partners. It turns out people fight much harder when they believe in what they are fighting for. The coalition, as it came to be called, grew quickly. Species that had been neutral started leaning toward humanity. Species that had been loyal to the Council started having second thoughts. Every week, another ambassador arrived at Earth asking about membership. High Chancellor Verthax watched these developments with growing fear. He called an emergency council session after learning that the Milani had defected. We are losing control, Crixtal admitted. The insectoid ambassador looked tired and worried. Every day, more species question our authority. Our trade networks are falling apart. Our military is afraid to fight. Then we must strike at the source, Verthax declared. We cannot attack Earth directly. It is too well defended. But the coalition has weak points. If we destroy enough of their allies, the others will lose faith in humanity's protection. Who do you want to target? The Trinari homeworld. They were the first to ally with the humans. They are still building their defenses. A fast, overwhelming strike will destroy them before the humans can respond. The Council approved the plan unanimously. They began gathering their remaining ships in secret, planning a surprise attack that would shatter the coalition before it grew any stronger. But they did not know that their secrets were no longer secret. Human intelligence had cracked Council communications during the first week of the conflict. Every message they sent, every plan they made, every word they spoke on official channels was being read by analysts on Earth. When the Council fleet arrived at the Trinari homeworld, they found the human carrier group Victory waiting for them. Commodore Drake stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the enemy ships emerge from faster-than-light travel. Right on schedule, he said quietly. All ships, engage as planned. Protect the Trinari world at all costs. The battle was short and brutal. Council ships tried to break through to the planet, but human vessels appeared in their path at every turn. Trinari defense platforms added their firepower, and Vorix raiders struck at the enemy flanks. Within an hour, the Council fleet was retreating with half its ships destroyed. That night, Keshver addressed his people in a broadcast scene across the entire Trinari world. For generations, we lived in fear, he said. His scarred face was wet with tears. He did not bother to hide. The Council could destroy us whenever they wanted, and we knew it. We were slaves, pretending to be free. Today, that changes. Today we have allies who came to our defense, not because they wanted something from us, not because we paid them, but because they gave their word, and their word means something. Humanity promised to protect us. Humanity kept that promise. This is what the new galaxy looks like. Not exploitation, but cooperation. Not contempt, but respect. Not fear, but hope. His words spread across the galaxy. Other species heard them and began to believe. Maybe there really was a better way. Maybe humanity really was different from the Council. President Mitchell received daily reports on the coalition's growth. Every report brought good news. More species joining. More trade agreements signed. More military vessels added to the combined fleet. We are winning, Daniel Carter observed during one briefing. Not just battles, but the larger struggle. We are proving that our way works. The Council is not finished yet, Mitchell cautioned. They still have resources. They still have loyal species. They will try again. Let them try. Every time they attack and fail, more species lose faith in them. Every time we defend our allies, more species want to join us. Mitchell nodded slowly. That is exactly the point. We do not need to conquer the Council. We just need to offer something better. The rest will take care of itself. History will remember this time as the moment everything changed. The old order dying, a new order being born, and humanity at the center of it all. I just hope we are worthy of that responsibility. We'll make ourselves worthy. That is what we have always done. When the galaxy looked down on us, we rose to meet the challenge. When they laughed at us, we proved them wrong. When they attacked us, we defended ourselves and our friends. That is what humanity does. We adapt. We grow. We overcome. And we never, ever give up. 1 year after Daniel Carter walked out of the Galactic Council chamber, he walked back in. The chamber looked the same as it always had. The crystal walls still glowed with soft light. The seats still rose in tiers toward the ceiling. The High Chancellor's throne still sat at the highest point. But everything else had changed. Half the seats that had once been filled with council delegates were now occupied by coalition representatives. Trinari sat beside Vorix. Milani sat beside members of the Crystalline Collective. Species that had once been enemies now worked together as allies. The species that remained loyal to Verthax huddled together at one end of the chamber. Looking small and frightened, Daniel did not go to the lesser podium where he had once been forced to stand. He walked directly to the center of the chamber floor, the place where only the most important leaders were allowed. "Hi, Chancellor Verthax," he said, his voice carrying to every corner of the vast space. "1 year ago, I stood here and told you that Earth was leaving your community. I told you that you would see us among the stars. I told you that you would see us coming. Today, I am here to keep that promise." He activated his display device. A map of the galaxy appeared in the air above him, large enough for every delegate to see clearly. The areas controlled by the Coalition glowed blue, spreading across nearly a third of known space. The areas still loyal to the Council glowed red, scattered and shrinking. "The Galactic Council is finished," Daniel continued. "Not because we destroyed it, although we could have done so, but because you destroyed yourselves. You built an empire on contempt. You treated younger species as servants instead of partners. You took from them and gave nothing back. When we offered them something different, they chose it. They chose us." Verthax stirred on his throne. The once-proud serpent looked old and tired now. "You speak of offering something different, Ambassador. But what you have built is no different from what we created. You have simply replaced one ruler with another." "Have we?" Daniel smiled. "Then explain why Trinari ships fly alongside human ships as equals, not as servants. Explain why coalition councils include representatives from every member species, with equal votes regardless of size or power. Explain why species are lining up to join us, while your remaining allies are looking for ways to escape." He took a step closer to the throne. "We are different, High Chancellor. Not because we think we are better than you, but because we learned from your mistakes. We know what it feels like to be dismissed and mocked. We know what it feels like to be told we are not worthy. We will never treat another species that way, because we remember too well how it felt. That is the difference. That is why we are winning. That is why you are finished." Verthax was quiet for a long moment. When he finally spoke, his voice was tired and defeated. "What do you want, Ambassador? Do you want surrender? You can have it. The Council recognizes coalition authority over all disputed territories. We will remove our forces. We will release our client species from their obligations. We will accept whatever terms you demand." "We do not want surrender," Daniel said. "We want transformation. The Council can continue to exist, but as part of the coalition instead of against it. Your species, all of them, can join us as equal partners. No tribute, no submission, no exploitation, just cooperation. You would welcome your enemies into your alliance? We would welcome anyone who accepts our principles, including those who once opposed us. We are not interested in revenge, High Chancellor. We are interested in building something that will last." Crystal rose from his seat. The insectoid ambassador's shell was dull and cracked, showing his age and stress. "And if we refuse? Then you can continue as you are, ruling whatever territory still follows you. We will not attack you unless you attack us or our allies. But you will be isolated. You will be surrounded by a coalition that grows stronger every day while you grow weaker. Eventually, the species that stayed with you will realize they are on the wrong side of history. And then you will be alone. The chamber fell silent. Daniel could see the council members looking at each other, calculating their options, wondering whether they should switch sides before it was too late. How did this happen? Verthax asked quietly. He seemed to be speaking more to himself than to Daniel. We controlled everything. We had the largest fleet. We had the most advanced technology. We had the richest territories. How did you defeat us? Daniel thought about the question carefully before answering. You did not see us clearly, he said finally. You looked at humanity and saw what you expected to see. A primitive species, aggressive and stupid, useful only as a source of cheap labor and raw materials. You never looked any deeper than that. But we looked at you very carefully. We studied your technologies and your strategies. We learned your social structures and your weaknesses. We used that knowledge to build something better, something you could not match. That is the answer to your question, High Chancellor. You failed because you underestimated us. We succeeded because we never underestimated you. He turned and walked toward the exit, then stopped at the door and looked back. You have 1 week to make your decision. Join the coalition as partners, or remain outside as observers of history. Either way, the galaxy moves forward, with you or without you. The door closed behind him. 2 months later, the Treaty of Galactic Union was signed in that same chamber. Every major species in known space was represented. They were bound together not by force, but by agreement. Not by fear, but by shared principles. Not by conquest, but by genuine cooperation. President Mitchell addressed the ceremony through a holographic transmission that appeared life-sized in the chamber. It was 300 years ago. Humanity reached for the stars. We found a galaxy that did not welcome us. They dismissed us as primitive. They exploited our weakness for their own benefit. For 2 centuries, we endured. We learned. We prepared. Today, that preparation bears fruit. Not in conquest, but in cooperation. Not in domination, but in partnership. The old order is gone, replaced by something better. Something that values every species, every world, every individual. This is not the end of our journey. It is the beginning. Together, we will explore the unknown reaches of space. We will solve problems that no single species could solve alone. We will build a civilization worthy of the galaxy we live in. And to anyone watching who still doubts humanity, who still thinks of us as the primitives who begged for membership while standing at the lesser podium, I say this. Watch us. Watch what we build. Watch what we become. You may have looked down on us once. You will never underestimate us again. The chamber erupted in applause. Beings of every shape and size and color celebrated together. Former enemies embraced as new friends. The divisions of the past began to heal. In the back of the room, Daniel Carter stood quietly and watched. He thought about that day 1 year ago when he had walked out of this chamber while alien laughter followed him. He thought about the humiliation and the anger he had felt. He thought about how far humanity had come since then. They were not laughing anymore. No one was laughing at humanity anymore, and no one ever would again. The stars stretched out before them, infinite and full of possibility. Humanity had proven itself worthy of standing among them. Now came the real work. Building, growing, creating something that would last for generations. The old order was dead. The new order had begun. And at the heart of it stood a species that had once been dismissed as primitive and worthless. Humanity had come home to the stars at last. Not as servants or subjects, but as leaders. Not as the weak species begging for scraps, but as the strong species that others looked to for guidance. It had taken 300 years of patience. It had taken 2 centuries of secret preparation. It had taken courage and sacrifice and determination, but they had done it. Against all odds, against the contempt of a galaxy that thought they were nothing, humanity had risen, and the galaxy would never be the same.